Hamilton, now at Ferrari, dares to dream of a record 8th F1 world title. The Tifosi will be hoping the Brits can bring glory back to Italy. To many, Ferrari and Formula One are inseparable. They're the only team in the sport today to have competed in the first World Championship in 1950, are the most successful team in history and have built some absolutely gorgeous cars. Their first driver's title was won in 1952 by Alberto Ascari. Considered one of F1's most dominant and best-loved champions, he drove the iconic Ferrari 500 and defended his title the year after. It was Juan Manuel Fangio in his Ferrari 250 who secured the team's next driver's title in 1956. Remember, he was world champion 5 times with 4 different teams. Mike Hawthorne, Phil Hill and John Surtees also won titles for Ferrari in the 50s and 60s, and the cars back then were beautiful, and they even sounded great, didn't they? Anyway, Ferrari went 11 years without winning a title until Niki Lauda won in 1975 in the iconic 312T. Throughout much of the 80s and 90s, though, Ferrari looked like they'd never go all the way again. Le Professeur Alain Prost came pretty close in 1990, but lost out to his bitter rival and former teammate at McLaren, Ayrton Senna. It was only when John Todt recruited a swathe of staff from outside of Italy, including Michael Schumacher, that the glory days returned 21 years after their last driver's title. The turn of the century saw the prancing horse sprint to an unprecedented 5 consecutive championship doubles. And after Schumacher left, Kimi Raikkonen reclaimed the driver's title immediately. But despite employing 1,500 people, the Iceman remains the last Ferrari world champion. So, 16 constructors' titles, 7 more than McLaren, and 15 drivers' titles, 4 more than, again, McLaren. Ferrari are truly Formula One's top team. Forza Ferrari.
Good morning, welcome to Sunday Edition with myself, Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter. The Championship is up and running and the Premier League kicks off on Friday when champions Liverpool host Bournemouth, and Liverpool are in action today in the Community Shield against FA Cup winners Crystal Palace at Wembley. We've got former Palace star Shaun Derry with us to look at what's been a rocky summer for his old club. We'll also be focusing on what's going on in the Midlands and clubs which could go bust by featuring relegated Leicester at home to financially stricken Sheffield Wednesday this afternoon. Don't forget, we're live on YouTube and your smart TV, so have a look at that. Just search talksport.com/watch for more details. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT. Morning, Henry.
Morning, Shaun. How are we?
Great, shiny new studio, same old Henry. But it's nice, isn't it? I know everybody's talked about it all week, but it's our first time in here. It's nice and, well, it's nice to be out the broom cupboard, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Nice broom cupboard.
Anyway, straight onto the papers.
Absolutely.
There's lots of good stuff in here.
Well, there is.
And now we're in our shiny studio. I can sort of hold up the papers to the camera. Not so good if you're driving, obviously, but we're looking at back page of The Sun, which features 2 big strikers.
Well, it does, isn't it? I mean, I assume you were off yesterday because this is a fantastic headline. The Benjamin Cesco headline, "Whoa, Cesc is on fire."
I think that's my deputy dean getting that one in early.
Dean's, of course,
as soon as he does score,
absolutely,
I want to be out again.
Yeah, no, very good. Ruben Amorim has urged £74 million new boy Benjamin Cesco to rein it in and not work so hard, which is not really something that we've heard so much from at Manchester United. I mean, that sort of covered all over the place with Cesco coming on the pitch and being saluted during their game yesterday, and then in the bottom corner, Jock, as in Gyökeres, gets his first goal for Arsenal. So,
which is good news, I think, for Arsenal fans, because they were a little underwhelmed by his performance during the week. When he had 14
I mean, give him a chance. I mean, he hasn't necessarily been training at full pelt. He's learning working with new players, and also Arsenal players are now, for the first time in probably 4 or 5 years, playing with a number 9.
Have somebody to pass to.
It's a bit new to them, rather than waiting for Kai Havertz to ghost in there. So yeah, he scored against Athletic Bilbao, 3-0 win. Did his trademark celebration. So a nice picture of that on the front page of the Sunday Tell sports section. And then, of course, talking of the Sunday Telegraph, we move on to your favourite subject. And it's basically whether you read the Sunday Telegraph or whether you read the Mail on Sunday about whether Isak is staying or whether he is likely to go. Where do you stand?
Well, Eddie doesn't seem to know for a start off, so how do I know where we stand? The thing is, as I've said to you before, we hold the cards, and we do hold the cards.
You don't hold all the cards.
Well,
not in the age of player power. 3-year contract.
When you've got 3 years to run your contract, you have a lot of power, and a lot of power to demand exactly the fee you want. I mean,
do you want to keep a sulky player?
Once we get past August, the end of August, that sulky player has to play and he has to perform. And frankly, the situation at the moment, we need to keep him because nobody else seems to want to join us, which has perturbed me slightly.
Well, Johan Visser. I mean, in a way, what's happening with Johan Visser and him not sort of training necessarily with or certainly not playing. Aren't there echoes there?
There is, but he's not an out-and-out striker, is he? He's not.
Well, he can play centre forward. You play off the left or centre forward.
I want somebody who's in the middle, putting the ball away.
And you've got Anthony Gordon playing up front there at the moment.
Yeah, which is not the answer.
I mean, look, he works hard and he did it very well for the under-21s a couple of years back. But no, I agree. I mean, you want to hold on to Isak. No, even with us on. What's your gut feeling?
My gut feeling is we're going to go all the way to the end of August, and it'll go one way or the other. But
do you think he'll keep him? I mean, if the Saudis are absolutely determined to send a message, which is very much Luke Edwards' piece in the Sunday Telegraph, Newcastle's stance is then met with Isak fury.
Indeed. Well, Luke says that he's been told he's not for sale and the Saudis are going to dig in. Eddie Howe was a bit sort of non-committal about that.
Don't you feel a bit for Eddie Howe?
Yeah, but he played the game at the start with the sort of, he's injured, he's a good lad, he'll be on the plane on Thursday and all of this sort of stuff. When I think deep down he probably knew a bit more than he was letting on.
So just one thing, you said that they might sell if it got to 150 million.
Yeah, well, at the very least, we want what we've always said was the asking price. And there's, but there is precedent, as I've said before, for players staying when they wanted to get away. Harry Kane stayed. Yeah. Okay, he went on a free, but that cost Tottenham a lot of money. Ronaldo, with Fergie, was told, give me 1 more year and I'll let you go. Yeah. Why not see how it goes this season? And then we might get around.
Isak obviously wants to move. But because obviously Liverpool, the size of the club, the sort of the advancing of the project, if we want to call it that, they're champions. You could see why he would be tempted, but if he does stay, he has to give absolutely everything because there's a World Cup at the end of this season,
absolutely,
and he doesn't want to be rattling around with the reserves.
No. So, sulky or not, he'll have to pull on the black and white shirt with pride come September.
So your gut feeling is he'll stay?
No, it's not my gut feeling. I don't know. I don't know. But Martin Samuel makes a good point in the Sunday Times, which is something I've banged on a bit about as well, that actually the Saudis, Newcastle is just one of their playthings, really. They're not the jewel in the crown. They've actually been helping other clubs to undermine Newcastle by things like backing the Club World Cup, giving Chelsea extra money in order to sign players, signing up Darwin Núñez for a ridiculous fee, which you might think 46 million plus add-ons is good value, but it's not on what we've seen so far. And
in terms of Liverpool can then use that money to go
because they're making exactly. So the Saudis are playing one off against the other, and they're not really helping Newcastle United at all.
Right. So, do you want them out?
They're not the golden ticket, put it that way. But of course, as we found, no matter how rich your owners are, you can't spend the money, and maybe they didn't quite realise that when they took over.
Just one thing on your beloved club. Do they miss Amanda Staveley?
A little bit, yeah.
In terms of
there was
her
a little bit of a PR thing there, and
she's more than PR. She got on with the players and got on with Eddie.
You'd see her at the ground, and you could almost say to her, "What's going on this week?" Like, I mean, tell us what's the news, and she would send a message. She was a bridge between the fans and the owners, which we no longer have.
But she knew the players well, and she got on with Eddie. And I think you need someone at the club, particularly at a club like yours at the moment, where issues about the chief executive, sporting director, there isn't that conduit.
I found it odd when Eddie was on tour, when he was told that Isak was training at Real Sociedad. He said, well, I don't know anything about that. I haven't talked to him. And I get the feeling, somebody like Fergie would have been on the phone to that player saying, oi, what you doing? Get back.
Fergie would have been on.
That's not really to criticise Eddie Howe. I think he was thinking, well, other people will sort that out and it'll be resolved when I get back. So I'll just concentrate on who I've got out here. But I think maybe he needed to take perhaps a stronger lead at the start on it.
I think he's been dealt a very difficult.
Very difficult. I agree.
By player and by board.
So you're pretty supportive, though, of Isak going to Liverpool, aren't you?
Not supportive of it.
Well,
I'm just looking at it. I just think there's an inevitability in these things. I mean, fair play to Newcastle if they can hold on to him. You're obviously sort of split on this.
No, I'd want us to hold on to him. I just don't know whether we will. I want us to, because he gave the first hint yesterday, Eddie, that it's not all necessarily certain that he would stay, because previously he hasn't really hinted he would go.
Yeah, I mean, that's Craig Hopes. Yeah. I mean, Craig's very well connected at Newcastle. Yes. He tends to be on the money on these things. That's the sort of tenor of his piece on the back of the Mail on Sunday.
One player who we think might eventually go, definitely go, is Jack Grealish, because he's got no hope at Manchester City. Let me try and show that the camera icon. Everton up their Grealish interest. Expensive for wage-wise, though, isn't he?
So what do you do? I mean, this is Paul Joyce's piece in the front page of the Sunday Times. Pull out. Joyce is very well connected, obviously, on Merseyside. I mean, it has to be down to the wages. I mean, if he's on 300 grand a week, how much of that are Everton able or willing to subsidise? And also, I find it interesting. I mean, he has to go there as a number 10. Because Everton are not short of quality on the left. Whether Jai plays there, I know he can play
that's where
elsewhere.
I think he should play, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's where he belongs. I think that's where he makes most things happen. You don't have to have the explosive pace to beat the fullback when you're playing in the number 10 role, and he's good at that.
I bet he's unlikely to get in the England squad as a number 10.
But at least he gives himself a chance. He's got no chance on the left.
He has to be playing, particularly at his age. He's 30 next month. I'm surprised Spurs haven't been linked with him, particularly after Maddison's unfortunate injury.
Yeah, possibly, but I think Everton will suit him personally. Just to finish off, there's a big interview with Tony Bloom in the Observer Sport.
Yeah, well, it's a great interview with Paul Hayward. So it's basically Mr. Brighton interviews Mr. Brighton, because we know how Paul Hayward is a die-hard Brighton fan. And just very quickly, there's a lot of very interesting things, and I urge you to read the Observer, page 10, 11, good spread, is talking very specifically about how they've almost gone out and targeted number 6s because they've the defensive midfielder, because they realise the game needs them. There's so much money they can be made from them. Eid Basuma, bought for 15 million, sold for 35. Bought Moises Caicedo for 4.5 million, sold him for 115 million. And now there's obviously the debate about Carlos Baleba, bought for 26 million. Manchester United would at least have to double that, although Brighton, as Paul and Tony Bloom point out, have no wish to sell Carlos Baleba.
It's pretty astonishing, that production line at Brighton, isn't it? Particularly in the holding midfield role, where they're just saying, let's get another one of those to make us 100 million.
And they've taken £250 million out of Chelsea.
Astonishing stuff. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT, and coming up, Shaun Derry, once of Crystal Palace as a player and a coach, joins us to talk about the Community Shield.
coming back to Anfield after a 5-year absence.
Nobody had Liverpool to win the league, and now you think to yourself, why? Why didn't we see it? I mean, those players, nothing changed.
Comes back to Salah, he puts it into an empty net, and Liverpool lead.
The other games in pre-season, I think we've conceded a few chances too much. Yeah, that's not what you want, especially not if you play Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace win the FA Cup for the very first time.
This is the biggest achievement what we could give to our supporters.
You know, it's a long journey to win a cup final. You know, you need to go through a lot of processes, and that club's building and building.
Oh, what a strike from Adam Wharton!
Another great opportunity, chance to win another trophy, which would be amazing.
It's a long, storied history that has always been slowly heading towards this day.
Liverpool v Crystal Palace is the traditional curtain raiser to the Premier League season. That's on at Wembley this afternoon, 3 o'clock, and it'll be live on talkSPORT. And here, joining us to talk all about it is Shaun Derry, former Crystal Palace midfielder and coach. Shaun, good morning.
Morning.
Morning,
good morning
Shaun.
to you both.
Shaun, I'm a bit perturbed by what's happened to Palace, I've got to be honest. On such a high after they win the FA Cup in May, and since then we've seen the problems with whether they're in the Europa League or the Conference League, and the difficulties they're having really over Glasner. Has he got any money? Has he not? He's sounding off a bit against the board. It's all a bit of a shame after how they've finished, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to a degree it is, but I mean, take nothing away from what they achieved in the cup final. I was both the semi-final and the final. They were both incredible days. If you're connected with Crystal Palace, no more so than if you're a fan of the football club, to go and achieve your first bit of silverware and then look forward to a European journey, whatever that journey is going to be. Nobody really knows yet, and that's the sour point for me. It's just shrouded now in just a little bit of controversy, and it's not what they probably would have been hoping for over this summer.
Yeah, but as I was saying, you say that's the main point. I agree with you, but Glasner is saying all the sort of things you don't really want to hear as fan. Well, you do want to hear them. You want him to get the board to spend more money, but actually it points to being a bit unsettled before the big kickoff.
I don't think you're wrong. I can, that would be a concern. If I put myself in a player's perspective, if you're Mark Gay or Eberechi Eze, just to name two outstanding players that Crystal Palace have got, I think this would be worrying times for them personally. Of course, from their agencies, their advisors. I guess they're looking at what European League they're going to be playing. I think the club here on Monday, what that's going to be, and we're only leading into the last couple of weeks of the window, and if you're going to be working in the conference, in the Europa Conference rather than the Europa Cup, I think that's quite worrying for Crystal Palace.
Sean, it's particularly poignant that you're playing Liverpool today with Mark Gay being linked to them. I mean, if he goes out and has a fantastic game, that obviously that's great for Palace, but it also might be Liverpool's recruiters might have a look at them because they need a strengthening at centre back.
Well, they do. I mean, I don't think there's any surprises around Mark Gay's performances since he arrived from Chelsea a few years back. Have been outstanding. Leading the club into the cup final last year alongside Joel Ward was a brilliant achievement for him personally. I think if you look at maybe, the pairing at Liverpool, is he going to get that place straight away? That might connect him to Crystal Palace for one more season, but then you get nothing for him at the end of the contract. So I think Newcastle coming in at the end of at certain moments last year, 60, 70 million pounds, whether that's true or not. But then to lose your captain for nothing in 12 months' time, I think will be a disaster for Palace.
Eze's still there, which may be a surprise to some. There's lots of talk still about maybe Arsenal hovering around. Do you fear that Palace will lose him before the end of the transfer window?
I think Palace is that kind of club, isn't it? It's a club that periodically needs to survive in the Premier League, and they've done that really well. Last year was the best example of surviving in the Premier League with a silverware alongside it. But ultimately, you're always going to be looking at your best players potentially getting poached. So I think Steve Parish and the board over at Palace accept and understand that happens every single year. But nonetheless, if you're looking at Arsenal, which I guess would be a suitable admirer of Eze, but also with James Maddison getting injured at a really bad time, I wonder whether maybe Spurs might put a late offer for him. But Palace need to keep these players. You just would mention Mark Gay, Eze, but Adam Morton, Ismaila Sarr's had a fantastic season, and that takes you into today's game, and it's really interesting what kind of game it's going to be. Sometimes this is this is an extended of a Premier League of a pre-season kind of, game 7, game 8 that these players are going to play. But I think for Palace it means a little bit more than that, than perhaps what it would do to Liverpool.
Sean, we saw last season that Oliver Glasner made the 3-4-2-1 system work very easily with not particularly extensive recruiting. And then we looked at Manchester United, and Ruben Amorim was struggling a little bit to make 3-4-2-1 work. What was it about, or is it about Glasner, that do the players particularly listen to him?
Well, yeah, I think the system suits Crystal Palace. Absolutely. The two wing-backs, Tyreek Mitchell on one side and Munoz on the other. Munoz obviously joins the attack a little bit better than what Mitchell would do, but It's just the threats that they've got in the counter-attack. And the difference for me between Man United and Crystal Palace is Manchester United still need to be in possession in their system. Crystal Palace are quite happy not being in possession. And they know that they're a massive threat on the counter-attack, which you saw from the cup final goal against Man City, where they broke away. They probably had 3 or 4 breaks in the whole game, and they were very destructive in the way that they can do it. And that is that's the challenge for Crystal Palace today. Is they're probably going to be out of possession maybe 65% of the day. But when they do get the chances, can they take it? They proved last year that they could.
Thomas Tuchel talked about liking his players to be in the Champions League. Do you think that would feature in the thoughts of Eze and Gueye?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point, you have to think about that. And I know Palace fans won't like me saying this, but these players want to play on the top table, and unfortunately at this moment in time, that's not where Crystal Palace sit. And Liverpool's and, even the Newcastle's, if that's going to be where maybe, 1 or 2 of these players might end up at, they are in this fantastic European competition. And I guess if they've got aspirations to stick around the international scene, which they should do because they're good enough to play for England, they've proved that, especially Mark Gueye in the time that he's pulled on the white shirt. He's been fantastic for England, But, yeah, that's the difficulty when you're a Crystal Palace owner, I guess. You know that you're going to lose your best players at some moment, and it's very difficult to kind of develop your football club when you've got these big, massive clubs trying to get you better players.
Shaun, Derry, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoy the game this afternoon. I'm sure it'll be great for Palace fans. What are you expecting from the game today?
I'm expecting an incredibly emotional salute to the memory of Diogo Jota and Andre Silva. I'm expecting money to be raised. It used to be the Charity Shield, now it's the Community Shield, but hundreds of thousands, probably more, will be raised for FA charities like the Alzheimer's Society. We've seen, and it's whether it's a Jose or a Pep thing, that the trophy has actually become like a major trophy. It's counted in the
Shaun made
total.
that point for Palace. It probably is.
Yeah.
It's very important to them.
Yeah,
as it was important for Leicester, actually.
Yeah, very important. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think we should also cherish the occasion, because I think this will be the first match that goes overseas. I can just see that.
Don't start that one again. We can't have it.
Well, I think we probably got maybe 3 years before this one goes abroad. It's happened in other countries.
We've got 14 American owners in the Premier League, and they vote for it.
That might not be 3 years.
But I think you might be right. What, another trip overseas on a plane, tiring the players out?
Yeah.
Anyway, isn't it easy?
Well, there you go. Look at the injuries.
Absolutely. I've noticed.
Yeah.
Next up, we're reflecting on all the Championship action and those astonishing scenes at Bramall Lane.
It's not often you associate fan power with Chelsea Football Club, but one of the shining examples of it lies with a group called the Chelsea Pitch Owners. And they've proved to be the thorn in the side of owners past and present who've been dead set on moving stadiums to a larger, more lucrative piece of land. Essentially, the supporters group holds the freehold to the land on which Stamford Bridge sits. Former owner Ken Bates set it up at a time where some unruly property developers tried to evict the club from their ground. In order to prevent this, he established the CPO as a company that owned the pitch and offered the fans the chance to buy a share for £100. As well as that, they also own the rights to the name Chelsea Football Club, so if any owner wants to take them elsewhere, they can't be called Chelsea without the approval from the CPO. Now, in 2011, Roman Abramovich tried and failed to move them away from Stamford Bridge, and this has set a precedent for Todd Bowley and the current power brokers at Chelsea. They know any plan which involves moving from Stamford Bridge will require CPO approval from the now 13,000 fans who own it. There are fans who are concerned that if they stay at the bridge, they'll be left behind their domestic and European rivals who are moving to more commercially successful stadiums. But for the heritage and history lovers, Stamford Bridge is one of the iconic English stadiums, and to move away would be a grave mistake. It might not be as flashy as others, but stadiums like it have something about them that cannot be replaced. One thing's for sure, if Bowley wants to take Chelsea away from their home, he'll have to go through the CPO first.
Championship can give you drama at the very end.
Tucked away by Isak West Bromwich Albion have hit the front.
Almost an hour gone. It's Gillingham 1, Walsall 0. Bradley Dack with a goal.
Deadlock broken. Middlesbrough 1, Swansea City 0. Dale Fry. Diving header from him.
Jamie Mullins, a lifeline for Wickham. Wickham 1, Stockport 2.
7 minutes to go. It's Norwich 1, Millwall 2. Macaulay Langstaff has only been on the field a couple of minutes.
No sooner had Schmidt denied Brannigan at one end than Pompey take the lead at the other. Oxford 0, Portsmouth 1. Winner here at Stoke, Mickey Gray.
94 minutes on the clock. Stoke City 2, Derby County 1. Divine Mupama.
Stoke are running right at Mickey Gray.
Yeah, Stoke City 3, Derby County 1, and it's Sober Thomas.
When we say we're back, we're sober.
Yeah. Championship kicked off in a big way over this weekend, and quite literally kicked off at Birmingham Ipswich, where it went off at the end. A nice dust up to get us underway. Southampton, amazing comeback against Wrexham. If you're watching that or listening to it on talkSPORT yesterday, you'd have enjoyed that finish, unless you're a Wrexham fan. And we had Sheffield United 1, Bristol City 4. And amazing scenes on the pitch afterwards, Henry, which took us back to the Phil Brown days, didn't they?
I mean, it's an extraordinary result.
Well,
I mean,
for a start.
For a start. I mean, you know, the results tend to dictate everything, and you could see the frustration of the Sheffield United fans. I mean, it would no one. I mean, I'm very fond of Bristol City. I've been to Ashton Gate a few times, you know, working as a punter, and my son was at uni there.
Is that another one of your teams, Bristol City?
Not really, no. I mean, England's my team, you know that. But no, I mean, it's an extraordinary scoreline.
So explain what happened on the pitch at the end with Ruben Sellers going round, the new manager, going round ticking them off the way Phil Brown did it when Hull City lost.
I mean, it's funny with Ruben Sellers because he's kept on moving.
He has, but not achieving. Not
achieving, but he was sort of highly regarded for a while, you know, at Reading, Southampton probably briefly, but he hasn't lived up. He hasn't brought the substance to the style. So they're going to in for another bumpy season. I mean, Sheffield, if you are the Sheffield correspondent at the moment for both clubs, I mean, you are cancel or leave, because that is...
I mean, we'll get on to Sheffield Wednesday play a little bit later on, but Sheffield United, of course, decided to go in a different direction, got rid of Chris Wilder when they just missed out on promotion. that doesn't look like a very good move.
I flicked on the telly yesterday and Chris Wilder was on, giving his expert opinion, and I was thinking, well, hang on a sec, you should be in a dugout somewhere, because he's a very good manager, and just to see him away from Sheffield United in particular, I mean, it's... Do you think he'll be back there before the end of the season?
Probably. I'm sure he's a man who would want to go back there again, no matter how he feels about the way he was treated at the end.
He's embedded in the club. I mean, I walked around the ground with him once, and I mean, he just knows everything. He knows the story behind every nook and cranny. He knows all the staff as well. So that was Ruben Sellish has got a lot of work to do.
Of course, there's a lot of focus on the two Hollywood teams in the Championship. I've been watching Brady's Blues on is it on Amazon? Which I find pretty entertaining, actually. And you get involved with quite a few of the characters on Brady's Blues. And there I was watching Birmingham on Friday night thinking, where's Alfie May gone? And suddenly, it proved that the way they develop, they buy players like Wrexham did for League One to get you promotion. And then you decide, well, Alfie's okay, but we have to upgrade now. And he's gone off to Huddersfield. And they've had quite a new...
They've had a turnover.
Quite a turnover, as have Wrexham.
Yeah, I mean, just on Birmingham City, I mean, their best appointment has been their manager, Chris Davis, who was obviously a gamble. People didn't know so much about him.
Well, we don't know that for sure yet. He's unproven. He's done a lot.
He's done it, yes. I know people say, they spent a lot of money, but they've... The way that he's got them playing, I don't know if you've ever interviewed him. I went and interviewed him last season at the training ground, which has got a lot of Brady in it, by the way. Almost every sort of inspirational quote on the board is one of Brady's. Let's get them in the end zone, sort of type NFL rhetoric. And in fact, in the medical room, which I sort of peeked in briefly, all the messages on the wall, certainly when I went there last season, were all Brady quotes. I mean, he's so embedded in that club, his culture, as well as the time that he spends there. But yeah, Chris Davis, I went and sort of sat down with him, and the first thing he did immediately, there was a sort of plug socket in the wall, and it was on. There was no plug in it, but it was on. He immediately flicked it off, and I said, that is the type of thing that is known for people who are just so obsessive about their role that they see something like that and they have to go and sort of flick it in. And he says he's absolutely obsessive about it. And look, he's done very well, as you say. He's been given money to upgrade, but you look at the stadium now. Transformed. Mm-hmm. They've got the new, the new plans for, was it $1.5 billion? What they're going to spend on the new area as well. And it's, you talk to Blues fans and they just can't believe it. It's brilliant.
But you look at, when I look at this documentary, and it's obviously edited their way, if you like, it is.
Edited by Brady or Birmingham's way?
Birmingham's way. And Wayne Rooney doesn't come out of it very well. And there's this worry.
Was it harsh what he said about it?
Yeah, I think it was harsh. But when they've compared Rooney with Brady in a few clips, and then you get Chris Davis, and I think he may have been unfairly portrayed, Rooney, as this is why we had to change it. Look at the way he was doing sort of analysis on the screen.
What was interesting, those Brady quotes that sort of came out when they were sort of publicising it, and he was driving away from the training ground. He was saying to one of his sort of assistants or colleagues, "What did you think of the training?" And the reply was a bit lackadaisical.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could accuse. I mean, we covered all of Wayne Rooney's England career and a lot of his Manchester United and Everton career. You could never accuse Wayne Rooney his commitment levels as a player. But I think maybe some of the focus on training maybe wasn't quite there. And it was a pretty disastrous appointment, particularly as they were going quite well before he arrived.
Absolutely, they were.
But yeah, look, they've appointed well in Chris Davis. As you say, time will tell. But it's been fascinating. Was it 12 new managers in the Championship?
And most of them British.
A lot of them British.
14, I think it was.
Is it 14? British? Yeah, we've got obviously an Austrian at Birmingham, Martis Cifuentes at Leicester now. Sheffield Wednesday, who seem to be sort of rotating. Henrik Pedersen has stepped up. No, look, I absolutely take your point. And Will Steele, who
and Phil Parkinson
grew up in Belgium and then went on to France and is now at Southampton and had an amazing
Will
game.
Still English?
Will Steele is English.
We do.
Even though he has played cricket for Belgium.
And I don't think any other manager in the league has done that, Henry.
No.
So Southampton-Wrexham, I found quite entertaining yesterday, actually. It was amazing the way Southampton came back. There was a lot of, shall we say, disputed decisions.
Well, there were two really poor decisions, penalty decisions against Southampton. I mean, the first one looked a blatant handball. And the second
was one against bad one against Wrexham.
Yeah,
as well,
so it was 2-1, actually, reflected the scoreline. I thought there was a very clear shirt pull as well. But yeah, what resilience and fair play to Will Steele with the way he sort of changed things. Obviously, look, he had to. They're trailing, and you know, and for Jack Stevens as well, who's taken a little bit of criticism. I just thought he was outstanding. He didn't get man of the match. I think Manning got it for that incredible free kick.
Great free kick.
But I thought Stevens was outstanding. Just the type of fighter you need.
Wrexham, as we say, bit of an overhaul of players. Brought in some old guard in the likes of Kiefer Moore and that, Ward in goal. Do you think they're resilient enough, certainly to stay in it, but unlikely to challenge for promotion? I mean, people are expecting, because the battle between the two Hollywood sides, and one of them's going to go up, I think.
Are Birmingham really a Hollywood side?
Well, you know, it's that Hollywood feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean.
Good.
Yeah, I don't think there are many sort of Oscars floating around there. But no, I think in terms of Wrexham, I mean, what an extraordinary story. But what is great is that you see, you know, they've rightly kept faith with a fantastic, almost, I mean, old school's a bit patronising because he's very forward looking for Parkinson. And they've done well. I mean, you looked at that team and they were organised from the start. Maybe not particularly expansive, but they knew exactly what they were doing. And I mean, obviously, over the last 15 minutes, Southampton deserved to take the points. But up till then, they were really troubled by Wrexham.
We did a big interview with Frank Lampard during the week in The Sun, and it was quite refreshing, actually, that Frank was, look, I tried not to beat myself up about what happened at the end of the season. You know, they lost in the playoffs and they were so close to going up, but maybe even in the back of his mind he thought that might have been a little bit too early. He said he enjoyed his summer holidays, he was refreshed, coming back great, and then you only get 0-0 draw at home to Hull. I understand that, but I think the pressure will be on him more this season than it probably was last.
Yeah, particularly as he's one of the more experienced managers now, actually, in the division, and people will be comparing that. But I think we all, I mean, inevitably, having covered England, you want to see Frank Lampard do well.
I do.
Because he is good. Yeah. Also, I think Coventry City, you know, they've had some sort of near misses, particularly around Wembley. But then you look at what Mark Robbins is doing at Stoke.
Yeah,
that was an extraordinary late finish.
Well, I know, and I think I heard yesterday Stoke haven't finished in the top half of the Championship for goodness knows how long. And Stephen Nzonzi was back there.
Really?
Apparently so. Well, World Cup winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back at Stoke. Yeah. Who was a bit of a fan favourite when he was there. So maybe he can inspire them to a better times in the Championship, because they have been a bit in the middle of nowhere drifting for quite some time, haven't they?
Yeah, with very wealthy owners.
Very, very wealthy owners. Who don't seem to spend that much money on it anymore.
No. Do you remember that night when we got an amazing rollicking off him?
I did.
Off Coates.
We got a coatsing.
We did, absolutely.
We did. We'll be talking a bit later on about Leicester v Sheffield Wednesday, which is live on talkSPORT 2. That's a game this afternoon. But that's a wrap-up of what's been going on in the Championship. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT with Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter. And coming up next, we're focusing on the serious plight of Morecambe FC. Now then, as well as the Championship getting underway this weekend, the National League did too, but Morecambe's game against Boston United was postponed because, as I'm sure you well know by now, Morecambe are in serious trouble with the owner refusing to sell the club to any suitors, and the danger is they could go out of business. And on Friday's breakfast show, host Jeff Stelling highlighted the importance of shining a light on Morecambe's situation.
The media, and I include us in that, are more interested in the moment whether Alexander Isak turns up for training for Newcastle United than we are about, the survival of a community club, a club that is absolutely vital to that particular community. Our view of football is all about money. It's not about what matters to the thousand of people whose love of football is going to be destroyed if Morecambe goes bust. Their lives won't be as fulfilled as they are right now, and I'm not sure people really get that at the top level. And I'm not blaming the Premier League, and I'm not blaming Premier League fans. I just think it's we need to pay more attention to some of the small fry, because we talk about the football pyramid, and you start to pull building blocks away from that pyramid, you know what happens.
Absolutely.
Passionate stuff from Jeff Stelling there, but I actually disagree with him. I think we've done a lot to highlight Morecambe's plight on here, Henry.
Yeah, I wish we didn't. I wish that Jason Whittingham would see sense and sell the club, because it's a disgrace, his assault on a community.
Indeed. And to continue our deep dive into what's going on at Morecambe, we're joined by Joel Shooter from the Shrimps Trust. Good morning, Joel.
Morning, cheers. Thanks for having me.
Morning, Joel.
Very good. As I say, me and Henry have been highlighting what's been going on at Morecambe most of this summer, and it's not getting any better, and it feels like we're approaching deadline time, the point where you fear Morecambe could go out of business.
Yeah, it's certainly not getting any better. I know, just kind of keeping an eye on the socials and our players over the last few days, I know a few of them have already kind of gone off and signed for other clubs, and fair play to them, They've not been paid, so you can't really blame them for going in and finding someone that will pay them. So yeah, it's worrying, and I think sadly we expect that it will be taken to the very brink. We fear that this is kind of a game of brinksmanship in terms of the sale being stalled, and it will probably be right till the deadline that this saga goes on until. But obviously, in that time, more and more of the club is kind of peeling away a bit. So obviously, I've mentioned players, staff have got to go and find other work as well. And yeah, it's just more of a difficult position to salvage the rest of this season from. And all the while, the fact there is just the overall fact that the whole future of the club is being put at risk as well.
Joel, do you think you suffer from the fact you don't have a sort of famous spokesman for Morecambe? I was having a look through, researching a few things during the week. People will point out that Morecambe have never really had a famous footballer who can stand up and say why you've got to save Morecambe. It's also been mentioned that sort of your most famous sportsman in Morecambe, Tyson Fury, hasn't said a word about what's going on at Morecambe, and I feel you could perhaps do with a bit of help from a big name.
Potentially, maybe. I mean, look, I'm not going to come here and kind of ask for Tyson Fury or anybody kind of famous to kind of give us a shout out. I think we'll keep doing what we're doing. We'll keep sharing our message. If someone someone famous, people of note like yourselves on this radio show, we really appreciate you kind of giving us the coverage to kind of share what's going on. And Jeff Stelling, obviously, the other day giving it a shout out. And yeah, I think we have managed to get a good bit of media coverage. But at the same time, look, anybody, if we catch the eye of somebody, there is a famous person who's wanting to kind of give it a plug. I think we had like Lloyd Griffiths I noticed the other day, Clive Tilsley. Lots of people have kind of chipped in, and we really appreciate it all. And it's one of those things where I'm not even sure how much pressure would necessarily force Jason to sell. We've literally had Lisa Nandy, highest office in this country for sport probably, and Keir Starmer call on Jason to sell the club and kind of end this nonsense of a saga, but he hasn't. So yeah, we keep plugging away, and hopefully one of our kind of appeals in the media will eventually hit home to him and really try to kind of make him understand the damage he's doing and the people's lives he's really throwing into chaos really with not paying them and taking away a massive community asset.
Joel, do you understand why Jason Whittingham is behaving like this? Because really, no one wants to be known as a club killer. No one wants to be as loathed as he is currently. What are his motives? Why isn't he negotiating properly with Punjab Warriors?
It's a golden question, to be honest, Henry. I think, it's one we've been pondering for a very long time. There's been plenty of moments over the past 3 years when we've thought, surely this is the logical time to sell. I mean, when you first put us up for sale, we were in League One, we made a profit, we were selling players, we had a few players coming through the academy. We were in probably the best position you're ever going to be to sell Morecambe FC from. But he's obviously, that position is now gone. We're in the National League. We're really struggling. In terms of why he's not selling, there's a few theories we have. I think it might be some kind of brinksmanship, which seems ludicrous and completely illogical, but because we think, from what we understand, that the bid he's received from Punjab is what we think is a very generous one. So it just seems completely illogical, but it might just be a game of brinksmanship. We don't know if there are some other parties involved, maybe not on paper on Company's house, but we don't know if there are any other parties putting pressure on Jason. I know he's alluded to this in previous statements. Whether it's a combination, we probably think maybe it's a combination of kind of brinksmanship and other parties maybe putting pressure on Jason, but they can play all the games they want, they're playing all these games doing this kind of brinksmanship nonsense, but all the while, people are not being paid.
I mean, you're talking about people not being paid. Tom White, obviously under his sort of PFA contract, was able to leave. He's gone to Boreham Wood, and he'd been very loyal to you. He put out that extraordinary, very powerful, very emotional, heartfelt statement, and he said in it, I could not have picked a better set of people to represent than Morecambe FC fans. Does that sort of make your heart sort of fill with joy, or break it even more that you're losing people of his substance?
It's a bit of both, to be honest. I think, Tom, we have a fans podcast. We've had Tom on the podcast. He's fantastic on that. From anybody who's, from what I've heard, from who's had interactions with him around the club, he's been lovely. He's played with so much passion. I think he's said a few times it's kind of been a really nice, positive place for him to be in his career, and he's been fantastic to us, and we really appreciate the time, and we're really glad that for the most part he's had a positive experience at the club, and it's nice to hear him kind of give a testament to the people around the club and the atmosphere that we create, because it's something we're really proud of. It's something over the years. When all this has been, with all this being in the news recently, I've seen a lot of tweets and social media posts from former players, some as far back as the mid 2000s, kind of saying what it's meant to them, and what a great time they had at the club, and that's something we kind of really pride ourselves on, and it's lovely to see that shared. But like you said, at the same time, it's heartbreaking to be losing somebody like Tom, who, fair play to him, and all the players who've kind of stuck around for as long as they have. They really have stuck around for as long as they can, and hugely appreciate that. And just really sadly, Jason Whittingham and Bond Group have strung this whole horrible situation out to a point where they feel reasonably so that they need to leave and obviously find a wage somewhere. So yeah, just gutting to lose Tom. We did our kit launch the other day, and where we had Tom White and another player who's left, Jamie Stott, who did a great job for us. The fans were all really keen on him as well. We saw some pictures of them in the kit for this season coming up, and yeah, that was a bit gutting to see, because obviously we're never actually going to see them play in it.
Okay, Joe, what is, you understand it, is the deadline now? When will they decide that that's it, you've had it?
So, I mean, it's a funny situation, really. So the National League have set a deadline of the 20th of August for us to show that we can complete the season. And obviously, and potentially after that, if we get to after that point, then we're looking at further sanctions and very possibly getting kicked out of the league. In terms of at what point the company of Morecambe Football Club Limited will be liquidated or cease trading, we're a bit unclear on that, whether that'll be after the 20th of August deadline. I think there are fears that it could even happen before. We're not too sure where things kind of stand with that. And so we've probably about a week and a half, maybe. The club might limp on, and then I think a lot of us suspect it might get done literally, 11:59, the 59th second of the 59th minute of the 23rd, 24th hour of the day, or whatever it is, come the 19th, because, we think this is very possibly just brinksmanship to try and squeeze a bit more money out of Pandreb or some other mystery party who might pay more than Pandreb, but I don't think they exist. So, I think it'll probably, probably around 20th of August is when we're really looking at.
Joel Shooter, we wish you and the fellow Shrimps fans the best of luck in your quest to save Morecambe FC. Seems to me, Henry, if you've got Shrimp in your nickname, you get into a bit of trouble, because it wasn't that long ago that the Shrimpers, Southend United, were in a fair bit of strife as well. But they got out of it, and they worked their way through it.
Well, they did, and I thought it was, Bury FC sent messages to Morecambe fans saying, come along at the weekend, and fair play to Brighton fans who held up a banner saying "Save Morecambe."
Indeed, let's hope Morecambe can be saved. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT. Blast from the Past is next, and the bizarre circumstances in which the big European competitions were being played 5 years ago.
When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punch bag for many fans. So what happened? Let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. The important context here is that over the last 3 years, the club has lost over 300 million quid. And from day dot, Ratcliffe committed to fixing this, which of course is the right thing for the club. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way Sir Jim Ratcliffe, accompanied by Sir Dave Brailsford, went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands their lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them £1 million a year. Now that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it gets a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered essential. The reward for being Steward of the Week used to be £50, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. And such is the grip Ratcliffe has on spending, he reportedly scrapped company credit cards, meaning some staff racking up hundreds of pounds worth of expenses and spending weeks out of pocket waiting to be reimbursed. But it's not just the stingy decisions around the amount of tea bags in the cafeteria. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge that United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Because while all this has been going on, Casemiro's getting paid 350 grand a week and the club forked out 14 million quid getting rid of Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth. But United fans' rage doesn't just stop here at the cuts. Ratcliffe's unpopular decision to introduce a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan, even children, certainly did not go down well. For fans, it feels like the very foundation of the club's support is being attacked for the sake of making marginal financial gains. But Ratcliffe has backed it, saying if you shy away from difficult decisions, then nothing is going to change. And time will tell whether these measures will improve operations at the club and help drag standards up on the pitch. But one thing's for sure, his first year wasn't exactly a charm offensive, and there's still a long way to go for United to be back to where many say they belong.
Yeah, we're into the second hour of Sunday Edition, and still to come, we'll have Alex Crook on the latest transfer news, and we'll have Midlands football expert Neil Moxley joining us. But first, it's time for this.
It's one small step for man.
That is very good.
I took up the world!
Blast from the past with Henry Winter and Shaun Custis.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over.
On talkSPORT.
It is now. I love football, Stan, I love it!
Yeah, it's our very last Blast from the Past, the feature where we go back in time, see what was going on a few years back. Today, we're going to go back to 2020, where football was stopped entirely due to COVID. It meant that when the Europa League eventually resumed in August, each of the quarter-finals were played in Germany over the course of a weekend. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United faced Copenhagen in Cologne 5 years ago, and the match was goalless until the very last minute of normal time.
Martial again, dancing past defenders as if they weren't there. Now it's played in towards Mata. Martial on the turn again. Referee gives a penalty to Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes, who's already scored 10 goals for United and 25 this season. And he has the opportunity to give them the lead in the Europa League quarter-final. And he sends it past Johnson and into the net. He went to the keeper's right. He guessed the right way, but Bruno Fernandes, with pace and precision, has given Manchester United an extra time lead, and Manchester United have got the job done. This not a vintage performance. But at this stage in Europe, it's the result that is all important.
Yeah, that was Manchester United going through against Copenhagen in the Europa League. And I'd completely forgotten, Henry, about all the circumstances of this. First of all, we're in August, mid-August nearly, and they're playing the quarterfinals of the Europa League. And also the Champions League was going on, I think, in Lisbon. So they were playing Man United.
Porto, Lisbon.
Porto, yeah. And Man United were playing in Germany against Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole weird circumstances, as the Times highlights, incidentally using a picture of Mason Greenwood and Brandon Williams to shows how we moved on from there. But it was just an extraordinary time, wasn't it, for watching football, covering football, judging what sort of state your team's in, and indeed, do people really remember those games at all with any fond affection?
Not really. I mean, we were privileged in a way in that we were able to go to the games behind closed doors and actually see them at first hand. But they were pretty sort of soulless, obviously, without fans, noiseless too. And in that case, in Cologne, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was hosting his press conference in one room, and all the journalists were in another room down the corridor, because for risk of infection of a coach. And Manchester United players were effectively in lockdown. They had to stay in their hotel. They couldn't sort of head out of there. And in fact, it was quite interesting just watching them. I mean, you think times have changed. They're walking down the steps when they land in Cologne, and they've all got masks on. And also, it shows how much times have changed, is that their plane's an Aeroflot. I think that that partnership maybe has been slightly discontinued. So yeah, I mean, it was extraordinary. Again, highlighted just how wretched football is without fans.
But the decision had been made to continue playing, and for all it was horrible circumstances, and the football's actually quite forgettable, I think, and our job was quite difficult. Nobody's going to weep for us. It was important that the games were played.
Well, there were broadcast contracts which had to be fulfilled. I think there was a desire for people who were at home for some live entertainment, if you could call it that, and fair play to the players, because some of them had issues at home. Maybe they were shielding elderly relatives who'd sort of moved in with them, and were understandably very concerned about catching the coronavirus. And actually, when you saw them play, they pretty much gave everything. I mean, it can't have been easy going out there, knowing that the state the world was in. Maybe they had issues at home, but also the fact they had no fans to feed off their adrenaline. And yet we also found out who had some of the liveliest vocabularies, because we could hear, I think, Conor Cody and Jordan Henderson was certainly lively. Kasper Schmeichel definitely had fairly encouraging rhetoric, shall we say.
Interesting side issue to this was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saying, back page of the Sun here, I can't keep all three keepers. They were De Gea, Henderson and Romero, who were the Man United three keepers. And of course, De Gea was honoured yesterday at Manchester United for his services to the club, having ended his time there, let's say, on a bit of a sour note through no fault of his own. Man United virtually pushed him out the back door, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why the fans wanted to salute him. I think in that game in Cologne, Romero was in goal and De Gea was on the bench. I mean, it's extraordinary when you look at, just sort of side issue, how much the squad has changed. Maguire and Bruno were the only two who are still there of the 18, 19 involved on the bench or starting. But yeah, De Gea, I thought he was outstanding. I can remember one of these early games at White Hart Lane, it's that far back, and he didn't have the best of the games. And Ferguson said, you'll all be proved wrong. He's going to be an absolute legend for this club. And look, he went on and did fantastically for Manchester United.
But is he a legend? I know we've been down this route, but he won't be remembered as one of the great Manchester United keepers, will he? Because also he's played in a time when they weren't particularly successful.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe that's down to him as well.
Well, also he was a fantastic shot stopper, but less good with the feet, as is desired.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I felt for Henderson at that time a bit, because in fact, Charlie Wyatt, he and I, your colleague at the Sun, he and I were out in Iceland, and the two of us did a Zoom with him. This was with England, and Dean Henderson spoke so well, but also very passionately and ambitiously about wanting to go back to Manchester United, same sort of era as this, and wanting to ease out.
I'll be the number one.
I'll be the number one. And well, you look at him now. I mean, he's England's number 2 now. I think Dean Henderson. He's been outstanding.
Also in the papers 5 years ago, it's Tammy versus Timo for the striker's role at Chelsea. Tammy Abraham versus Timo Werner. We certainly have moved on since those days.
We have. I mean, Timo Werner, discuss.
Oh.
Can't finish, offside.
Where is he?
Well, he was at Spurs and he got sort of...
I know, and never got a game.
Yeah,
so is he still there?
He's back, no. Whereas Tammy Abraham, I sort of rather felt for him. I mean, the previous season, he'd got, 19 goals for Chelsea. So, and Timo Werner came in 48 million. I mean, he was a good player. And sometimes you look at Chelsea's academy and wonder, like Mark Gay, we'll see today, what happens. Jamal Musiala, who moved around. So many good players have moved on. But then the sales that they've made, I mean, it's just been an absolute cash machine for them.
Amazing, yeah.
I mean, look at Declan Rice. You left there, 14, 15 great mates with Mason Mount.
And just really quickly, while the producer's going, move on, we've got to say, there's a great piece, the Daily Mail, The Wonder of Chris Woakes. This is 5 years ago, probably one of the unsung heroes of England's cricket team, and really had his day in the sun last week, where everybody noticed him because he had his dislocated shoulder and went out to bat.
It was painful watching him run there. I mean, he didn't face a ball, but we're just watching him run between the wickets as they tried to get over the line and failed. But that was Nasser Hussain's column in the Mail back then. And basically,
talking about what a great batsman.
Yeah, celebrating his ability in a run chase at Lord's. We could have done with a couple of those runs the other day at the Oval.
But he is sort of an unsung hero, isn't he, Woakes? He's been around a heck of a long time.
But there were 2 of England's greatest ever fast bowlers ahead of him.
There were, but Nasser's highlighting what a good batsman he is.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe had he been able to bat fit against India, we might have won that series. That was our final blast from the past, because a new feature next week we should give you details about.
So blast from the past have been consigned to history.
Yes, it has indeed. Next up, we'll get the latest transfer news from our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, and I repeat, Isak must stay. Transfer talk next here on Sunday Edition. I am getting rightly berated for inadvertently saying earlier on that Harry Kane went for free to Bayern Munich, when of course he didn't. He went for £100 million, which is, I accept, is quite some difference. And also, people are telling me that Liverpool won't be paying £150 million for Alexander Isak. You are deluded Geordies. Tony, one of those who's saying that. Tony Gannon. Alex Crook can perhaps clear up a few things in the transfer market this morning. And Alex, I'd like to start with Rasmus Højlund's United future.
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to a very hot Wembley Stadium building up to the Community Shield. Yeah, Rasmus Højlund, I think interesting developments in the last 24 hours, really. Obviously was left on the bench for Manchester United's friendly against Fiorentina yesterday as the PA system cranks on at just the wrong time. That was a pretty clear indication, I think, that Ruben Amorim sees Højlund's future elsewhere, particularly having snapped up Benjamin Cesco. I've been told this morning that the Højlund camp are now reluctantly accepting that he doesn't have a future at Manchester United. AC Milan very much in the driving seat in terms of his signature. I think it'll be a loan deal initially. There is talk of a £39 million obligation with a loan fee, an option, not an obligation. That means if he was to sign permanently for Milan next summer, then Manchester United would break even over the course of his contract. So that would be a good deal in terms of PSR.
What about Chelsea being ready to step up the Garnacho interest? We know Chelsea are pretty keen, but do you think they'll get that over the line?
I think they will. I think they're willing to be patient because they realise that the nearer we get to the deadline, maybe the more desperate Manchester United will become and reduce their asking price, which we understand at talkSPORT to be around the £50 million mark. Obviously, it was a high-profile falling out between Garnacho and Ruben Amorim in the wake of that Europa League final defeat to Spurs in Bilbao, when the manager, by all accounts, told Garnacho in front of his own teammates he had no future at Manchester United. This one is being driven by Paul Winstanley, I'm told, one of the co-sporting directors at Chelsea, who clearly feels like they can unlock obvious potential. I just wonder with Garnacho if the attitude and application matches the raw ability that he has.
Agent Henry Winter has managed to get Hermansen to West Ham, which I think we will all applaud Henry's achievement. He's been banging on about him for about 3 months, saying he needs to be back in the Premier League, and that's completed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I hope Henry's getting 10% of that deal.
I'm sure he is.
It looked like John Victor of Botafogo was West Ham bound. He'd agreed terms. There was a fee agreed between the two clubs, but all the time West Ham's recruitment department were working away in the background on this Hermansen deal, and it looks a good one as far as West Ham are concerned, because the asking price at one stage was as high as £25 million. I've been told this morning West Ham paying only a guaranteed £15 million initially, and I think for a ready-made Premier League number one, and clearly they want to replace Alphonse Areola, who's made a couple of mistakes in pre-season. This could be a really shrewd signing for West Ham.
That's going to affect your cut, Henry.
Crookie, I think it's really good that you're describing as an outstanding Premier League goalkeeper. I think just in the interest of news, I love news, not as much as you do. You're an absolute news hound. That it was definitely worth covering that story. Crookie, would you rather have 50 million quid spent on Manchester United's training ground, or 50 million pounds spent on just the type of player you need, which is an athletic, mobile central midfielder like Carlos Baleba?
Well, I don't think you're going to get Carlos Baleba's right leg for £15 million, Henry, to be perfectly honest. I think Brighton see him as a player who could well fetch the type of money that Moises Caicedo did when he made that British record move from Brighton to Chelsea. But I understand the question. I think it's been a really good window for Manchester United. The big issue last season was the lack of goals, only 44 in the Premier League. They've addressed that with £200 million spent on attacking acquisitions. I've liked what I've seen from Diego Leon, the young left-back, as well. And they're getting players who don't want to be there anymore off the wage bill. But you're right, there's a big chasm in midfield. I'd argue there has been since Michael Carrick left the football club, and Baleba would be a perfect signing. But in order to move with the times, I think investing in Carrington and getting state-of-the-art training facilities was just as important.
Drawing on your knowledge of the club, you've now got 4 very good number 10s. Where does Bruno Fernandes play if you've got Cunha and Mbeumo presumably playing behind Cesco and Mount on the bench?
Well, that's a brilliant question, because obviously they played with Bruno Fernandes in a deep-lying midfield role in the Europa League final, and it was an absolute car crash. So I don't think they can go into the Premier League season with that, not against top-class opposition anyway. So how do those players all fit in? I guess you need depth, although there's no European football, so Manchester United will be playing fewer games than they've been accustomed to for the last 30 years or so. It's not just question marks over Bruno Fernandes, but Mason Mount as well, who played as a false number 9 yesterday in the friendly against Fiorentina, struggled a little bit in that position. I think that was more a message from Amorim to Rasmus Højlund than a plan to use Mason Mount as the number 9. But you can play Mbeumo as the central striker. Cunha can do that job as well, and maybe Bruno Fernandes in behind with one of the other two. But of course, they've got Cesco as well. I don't think many Manchester United fans will be complaining that all of a sudden they're full of attacking options.
Plenty of Newcastle fans are complaining, partly because we've missed out on Cesco, of course, and among a number of other players who Newcastle have missed out on. And Isak, we're back to him again, and the latest as you see it.
First and foremost, it does look like there's some positive news in the transfer market for Newcastle. Malik Thiaw, AC Milan defender, fee of £55 million agreed. We're expecting the medical to take place tomorrow, and I think they need that depth at the heart of defence with Sven Botman's injury record. In terms of Alexander Isak, I thought Eddie Howe's comments yesterday were very telling when he was asked directly, has Isak been told that he won't be allowed to leave the club this summer? And he said, I'm not aware of that. And I just sense from Eddie Howe's body language, I don't know if you guys feel this as well, he's really annoyed with the way that Alexander Isak has conducted himself over the course of the past few weeks.
Yeah, I think he is. And I think he understood when he flew off when they flew off on their tour, he was pretty adamant that Isak would have been on that plane. And I think it took him slightly by surprise that he wasn't. You know, he played along with hey, he's got a bit of an injury. And then he was completely blindsided by the fact he went and trained at Real Sociedad. And I thought, as I've said to Henry earlier on, at that point, Eddie should have got on the phone to Isak and said, get yourself back to Newcastle because you are a Newcastle United player. You've got 3 years left on your contract. And if we want to sell you, we want 150 million. Until that time, you're a Newcastle player. Get on with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know a lot of Newcastle fans, and I've been giving them a little bit of stick over the players they've missed out on, particularly Benjamin Šeško. But they're not happy with Alexander Isak either. I've heard word like rat bandied around. So I think it's not just the relationship with Eddie Howe that Isak would need to repair if he does stay at the club, but with those supporters as well.
But there was no discernible dissent yesterday, I'm told, from chatting to my mates yesterday at the match. It was pretty subdued when it came to talking about Isak. It's a bit of a waiting game because, believe me, Alex, there are still Newcastle fans who believe we can get out of this by keeping him. And I really think Newcastle should make sure they dig in for 150 million if they think they're going to sell him. If he don't get 150 million, he doesn't go.
Yeah, I'm not sure Liverpool will go as high as 150
million. Well, then
million.
They're not getting him then.
I think the first bid, well, you're obviously driving a hard bargaining position. Behalf, but I think their feeling is the first offer they made that was rejected was pretty close to Isak's market value and pretty close to what Newcastle may be willing to accept. I think it all depends on replacements. We're still expecting that Johan Wissa will move from Brentford to Newcastle. Brentford looking at Dongo Watara from Bournemouth to replace him, which would help facilitate that move. Then there's talk of the like of Samu, another potential option. I think in order to sell Isak, they need to sign at least 2 strikers because, of course, they've already lost Callum Wilson this summer.
Crookie, Shaun's been getting in a huff about Isak's behaviour, but shouldn't we also be getting in a huff about Johan Vissa's behaviour?
Yeah, I agree, Henry, and call me cynical, but I do wonder if Johan Wissa would have been refusing to train at Brentford if Thomas Frank was still the manager, or is this a player trying to take advantage of the fact that there's a new guy in the dugout in Keith Andrews, who obviously doesn't have experience of dealing with this type of situation?
You would expect Wissa to go, though, wouldn't you? I'm not saying his stance is a good one, the way he's behaving necessarily, but it feels like that one's got every chance of being done.
Yeah, I think subject to sourcing a replacement, and Watara did play 90 minutes for Bournemouth in a friendly yesterday, so that would suggest that maybe the deal is not as close as some were suggesting at the end of last week. But Watara, I'm told, has asked to explore his options. I think he'd be a good signing for Brentford. He's versatile. He actually played a lot last season as Bournemouth's number 9 because they had injury issues and scored some important goals to help them finish in the top half of the table. I think it's very difficult for any club, and particularly a club lower down the food chain. I don't say that disrespectfully for Brentford, but to keep an unhappy player. So, yes, I would expect Wissa to go.
Alex Crook, well done for fighting against that PA system. Goodness knows who they're actually talking to at this time on the PA system, but great effort. Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
We shall see when we talk to Alex next week where Alexander Isak is, Henry.
Do you know what you're talking about, the PA system there? I parked up there at 7:30 this morning and then got the tube down and heading back to Wembley. Loads of people around. It's extraordinary. Just, I guess a lot of them were obviously going into to work at Wembley. A lot of people live around there, but I was surprised. I thought it'd be like a sort of ghost town and sort of tumbleweed sort of chasing me up Olympic Way, but it was quite busy.
This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT. Midlands football's on the agenda next.
When was the last time you saw someone score with a knuckleball free kick? We're going to take a look at why we're not seeing them anymore and explain a bit about how they work. The knuckleball peaked in the 2010s after that Ronaldo strike against Portsmouth in 2008 inspired academy players everywhere. Here's a young Mason Mount.
I tried to base my free kick on Ronaldo, hit the ball by the valve and it moves. So what do you do? Top corner.
Now, no ball is perfectly aerodynamic, so as it travels it creates ever-changing pockets of turbulent air, causing that unpredictable movement. Football's most prolific free kick taker, Juninho Pernambucano, perfected the technique but didn't invent it. He was inspired by players from the 90s and even the 50s. So how do you do it? You have to hit the ball head on with as short a contact time as possible so the ball doesn't spin. Hitting by the valve helps with that short contact time as it's the hardest part of the football. So why don't we see knuckleballs much anymore? It's because players are being told not to shoot from dead ball situations because the XG is so low. In fact, as Opta shows here, since the 08-09 season there's been a 10% reduction in players shooting from free kicks in the Premier League. And in 23-24, a record low of 11 free kicks found the back of the net. And the knuckleball, though spectacular, is imprecise, which is why it's becoming a thing of the past.
Yeah, it's Sunday edition with myself, Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter. We've got half an hour left until Max and Barry take over with the warm-up. And now we turn our focus onto Midlands football. We saw Tom Brady's Birmingham drawing 1-1 with Ipswich the other night. And we've got a Leicester versus Sheffield Wednesday this afternoon, which is a talkSPORT 2 exclusive, where we'll have commentary from Jim Proudfoot and former Arsenal midfielder Adrian Clarke. Delighted to say I'm joined by a man who keeps the Midlands very close eye on there, Neil Moxley. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Shaun. Morning, Henry. How are you, fellas?
Neil, great to hear from you. Me and Henry were talking a bit in our championship roundup about potential runners and riders this season. Mike the Stokey texts to say Stoke are the dark horses this season. Mark Robbins is a quality manager. Recruitment's been excellent. Stoke are a big, powerful team with plenty of quality to go with it. Sounds like old-fashioned Stoke are back in town.
Well, John Walters is calling the shots there now, isn't he, as director of football? And I think he's very much in tune with what the Potters faithful are actually all about, to be honest with you. And they like, their biggest success has come under Tony Pulis, and he played a particular brand of football. A lot of people don't like it. I'm actually all for it. I'm always one of those ones that says your justification is in the scoreline. And to be honest with you, it looks as though, Mark Robbins, hugely undervalued manager for what he did at Coventry City over the past 7 years. And John Walters, looks to be making some sensible decisions, to be quite honest with you. Just looking at the people they've brought in, guys, we're looking at effectively, it's not been a fantastic season. They've brought in a guy from Plymouth at centre half. I think he's the most expensive signing. But yeah, it looks as though it's going to be better days ahead for Stoke. To be honest with you, I can't see them quite yet pushing away past the likes of the three relegated sides and some of the other guys up there at the moment. But I definitely think they'll have a better season than they've had for the past 2 years when they've been flirting with the relegation zone.
Just quickly, Neil, I did mention Nzonzi earlier on, who I was surprised had returned. That took me blindsided me, that one.
Yeah, I've just had a quick look at it, Shaun. He's 36 now. He was an absolute quality player in his time. Probably enjoyed his best years at Blackburn Rovers. But I would imagine, when I looked at that signing, when I thought about it, years and years ago, Robbie Savage went to Derby County and played in sort of a deep-lying quarterback role for Nigel Clough. And I just wonder whether or not, Nzonzi would perform the same role for Mark Robbins, because he can certainly play and he can certainly pass the ball. Obviously, he might not be able to get around the pitch quite as he used to at the age of 36, but he certainly had something in his prime.
Anyway, what did you make of Birmingham on Friday night? Tom Brady's Blues nearly in the big time. But
is that how we're going to refer to it from now on? It's Frank Lampard's Coventry City and Tom Brady's Blues.
Shaun is.
God, blimey.
Well, it is. They've got a flipping documentary out which says Brady's Blues, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I think that's to appeal to the American audience rather than to the majority, about half of Birmingham, mate. To be honest, but look, I think if you'd said to people before kickoff, whether they'd take a point, I think the majority of Blues fans probably would. If you said to them with 10 minutes to go, would you take a point? They certainly wouldn't have done. I thought they edged it. I thought they got around the pitch with energy. I think there was a clear structure. There's a bit of a backbone to the side. They clearly don't like being beaten. There's a lot of momentum about the club at the moment. A lot of good things going on. It's all sort of positive, full steam ahead. And the other thing as well, guys, last year, the three signings that really made a difference for them in League One, that's Ben Davis, Tomoki Iwata and Jay Stansfield. They were all signed in the final week of the window. I still think Birmingham have got some significant financial firepower to play with. And I think Chris Davis, his words are he's going to have a look at things and see what he needs to bolster his squad. And I expect them to stay in the market. They've signed 9 players so far this summer. So the squad has got a fresh look about it. 4 of them made their debuts on Friday night. Tommy Doyle came off the bench. Expect him to feature a lot more. And I certainly think that Birmingham City fans will be expecting, to finish in the top half of the table, quite where I just don't know yet.
Neil, everyone seems to sort of focus on the money that they've spent. Does that slightly undervalue or underappreciate the influence and the impact of Chris Davies?
Yeah, I think so, Henry. I mean, look, this was a guy who was a complete rookie. I mean, he's been schooled, as you both know, by, Brendan Rodgers pretty much throughout his entire career. And what a schoolmaster Brendan's been. He's enjoyed success pretty much everywhere he's been. There's every time I look at Chris Davies and hear him speak, I can just see hints of Brendan in the way he deals with the press, in the way he sort of operates. He's very, Brent. We were having a chat with Brendan the one day, and he looked at me and he said, "Neil, you don't have to be nice to be ruthless, and ruthless to be nice, rather." And to be honest with you, I thought about it afterwards, and I just see so much of Brendan in Chris Davies. He's very, very driven. He's always talking about, I know for a fact he gets on the team bus after matches and doesn't bother engaging, just opens up his laptop and watches a rerun of what's taken place after away games. He's hugely driven. He prides himself on his work ethic. I think there's a lot to like about him, Henry. And I'm not, going forward, it'll be interesting to see where he manages to take Birmingham City this season, because I've seen a lot of we all have seen managers come and go, and I think he's got something.
Just across town, I mean, John McGinn, 18 million. I mean, how can you put a figure on the importance of someone who's so good in the dressing room, so good around the club, still an important player with the amount of games he played last season, still can do a job as an impact sub? I mean, Villa aren't going to lose him, are they?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so, Henry, and for all the reasons you've just outlined, really. I'm a bit of a John McGinn fanboy, because we see him, we see some of the behind the scenes stuff that the punters don't see. The fact that he's, very much a leader. He's very much the guy that gels things together. He always fronts up, which is obviously appreciated by pretty much every single member of the press. He always comes out and has a chat to us. And I know these things shouldn't matter, but he's a skipper. He takes those responsibilities very seriously. I think Aston Villa would be all the poorer if John McGinn left. I do look around. Yes, they have got other leaders there, some of the senior group, the likes of particular Tyrone Mings, Ezri Konsa, Ollie Watkins. But John McGinn really is the glue that holds it all together. And do you know something? When you mention the name John McGinn to Unai Emery in his press conferences, he always breaks into a smile. I think there's a degree of goodwill I think that exists between the manager and McGinn. When he came in, Emery, he sort of put his arm around the Scotland international and said, "Look, I've seen the last 20 games you've played." And McGinn was a bit taken aback by that. And he said, "Why haven't you been playing as well in the last 10 as you have been in the first 10? Because I think you can play." And it gave him a massive, massive boost. Henry, I'd be if I was a Villa fan, I'd be really reluctant to lose him, because he just offers so much, both to the team and off the pitch as well.
Now, Neil, this afternoon on talkSPORT, we've got Leicester against Sheffield Wednesday. Question marks around both clubs, really. Sheffield Wednesday obviously in the more dire position, because they're facing, in theory, extinction. It could be, or certainly losing a lot of points. But Leicester too are still in jeopardy of losing points, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're in the process at the moment, Shaun, of having pretty much having some of their players cherry picked, and there's not a lot. I don't think there's a lot they can do about it, to be honest with you. It looks that they've not been very active in the transfer market at all. They've signed Asmir Begovic, obviously as a goalkeeper. Goalkeeping backup to Jakub Shalarsic, if I can get my teeth in. And that's been about it. They've still got a hugely bloated squad, so it's really a case of Leicester getting rid of some of that excess. I hate to talk about people like that because it's their jobs after all, but getting rid of some of that excess, bringing their wage bill down, because they've still got profit and sustainability issues. Do I think it'll end with a points deduction? I'll be surprised if it didn't. We've got nothing other than intuition to sort of guide us on that one. But if you look at the team sheet that Marty Cifuentes is going to put in today, guys, in terms of attacking talent, they've got plenty there that can cause Sheffield Wednesday a problem. Abdul Fattah, who has been absolutely flying during pre-season. Steffi Mavididi, I think, was suffered a bit through lack of confidence, but I expect him to come flying out the blocks. And Bill El Kanous as well is another one that might disappear before the end of the window. But, in those players, Leicester have still got some firepower, and I expect them to be able to use that today against Sheffield Wednesday. Quite how long Leicester Foxes fans are going to be enjoying them for, who knows, because I'd be surprised if all those three were left still playing in Royal Blue by the end of the transfer window.
They've got one or two good kids coming through as well, haven't they?
Yeah, Jeremy Monger's is the sort of poster boy for the academy. I mean, Rudan Nistelrooy, pushed him into in and around the first team last year. Obviously, he hadn't signed pro terms then, but I think I'm pretty sure. I think I'm right in saying that he has now, and I think that was to do two things. Obviously, to protect the valuation should it have gone to tribunal or whatever for his services if a bigger Premier League club had come in, and secondly to give the lad some sort of experience. I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it, to think that he was still at school and turning up in his school uniform, and obviously because of safeguarding issues, he wasn't allowed to get changed with the rest of his teammates. So it's a strange one, but history tells us with the likes of Jude Bellingham, if these generational talents come along, you've got to put them in the team because that's the way they develop. And if Monger's good enough, then I would expect him to feature.
Neil Moxley, I'm sure you'll be keeping a very close eye on what's going on at Leicester City and the rest of the Midlands this season. And we'll talk to you again, Neil. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Cheers, Neil.
Leicester Sheffield. Battle of the two teams in a bit of a crisis.
Yeah, but I mean, at least Leicester City will be able to fill their bench. I'm really interested to see whether Sheffield Wednesday...
Number 9, back in fashion. Sunday edition with you till 12 o'clock. me and Henry been talking sort of before the show started, and we're putting together a bit of a list of strikers in the Premier League, and we reckon it could be a season where we're going to see it getting back in the mixer, back to the old-fashioned days when the cross came in and the big man came in and headed in or volleyed it in. Certainly Cesco looks like a man who might be getting on the end of things. If you look, you've got Gyökeres at Arsenal, Ekitike at Liverpool, Haaland at City, who we know would like to see it more in the mixer. João Pedro and Liam Delap at Chelsea, Isak at Newcastle, yes, that's right, Isak at Newcastle, Watkins at Villa, Solanke at Tottenham. Henry, are you looking forward to getting it lumped forward and into the box?
Did you notice how the producer, when he wrote Isak at Newcastle, he put in brackets for now
in brackets? Yeah,
I mean, that is harsh, a dagger to your heart. I mean, number 9, I mean, you call him a big old-fashioned or an old-fashioned number 9, and we did go through a stage when Rooney wore 10, Kane wore 10, Sergio Aguero wore 10. It was almost like sort of the number 9. They didn't want to be sort of pigeonholed at that. I mean, the sort of the archetypal number 9s. I mean, who is there who's an archetypal number 9? You could argue Cesco is, but then he can play deeper and linked.
I think he's intended to be.
Absolutely. In that 3-4-2-1. No, I'm just sort of saying these are all far more multifaceted strikers than just the sort of, the big lump, as you would call it.
Well, Gyökeres is intended to be in the box all the time. Haaland, we know, would prefer to play that way.
Yeah.
He's not that interested in dropping deep, linking play, and
no, but they also they have a subtlety with their feet, particularly Haaland. João Pedro can play left as well as a number 9. So I think it's slightly more nuanced. Watkins as well. We saw him wide earlier in his career, but he's obviously been terrific through the middle for Villa, and also when he came on for England. Dominic Solanke, he can play with his back to goal as well as link.
But I think players like to perpetuate the myth that they're not actually a number 9 because it slightly gets you off the hook for goal scoring stats. If you're a number 9, you only look at the goal scoring stats. But if you go, well, he's a 9.5, he plays a bit deeper, he drifts out to the wing, you can say, well, that'll be the reason he doesn't get so many goals. If you say, I am number 9, I am centre forward, and I get in the box and score goals, that's what you're judged on.
But do you think elite footballers think that way? I think they.
I don't know.
Like
I think
that.
their agents might go, "Ooh, don't say you're a number 9," because people will start looking at your goal scoring stats.
Even though number 9s have always gone for the biggest sums. Do you remember we had that chat with Chris Sutton once about he wanted to be sort of centre forward because it was and I said you were the best centre half that England ever had. We could argue about Steve Bruce and players like that, but Chris Sutton absolutely was an outstanding centre half. But he wanted to go up front in that era.
But maybe when you first join a club, then maybe it's better if you're just known as somebody who can play a bit everywhere, and then you sort of get yourself into it and you start getting in the box, you score a few and say, I'm the goal scorer.
Would you consider Thierry Henry, who wore 14, would you consider him a number 9?
I would consider him a centre forward, yes.
He started on the left.
Yeah, he did start on the left, but he was converted. What was he?
No, he started on the left in terms of a lot of the moves that he made in games.
So you don't think the big number?
Well, I just think we get fixated. Maybe it's sort of our generation that we grew up with the type of sort of battering ram centre forwards, whereas there's much more subtlety to these players now.
Who was your favourite? Big number 9.
Growing up,
it'll have to be an England one, obviously, for you.
Well, I mean, slightly older. Well, that I've covered, Shearer, clearly. Shearer was outstanding, and that
absolutely
with Sheringham as well. That Dutch game was at Euro '96 was phenomenal.
But okay then, if you're talking about big number 9, don't they always have to have somebody playing with them to make it effective? Are we getting back? Is there a chance we'll get back to 2 up front? Big man, little man, 2 people linking, for instance. Slightly Son and Kane was nearly there. Sometimes even though I accept Son drifted out to the wing quite often. But there was a good link up between those 2. I don't think we've seen a double act quite like that.
Are you trying to bring 4-4-2 back, Shaun? This is
4-4-2.
I thought Blaster from the Past was ending.
It would.
I think they like. Well, look,
what's wrong with 4-4-2? Why don't you like 4? Why are you sneering at it?
I'm not sneering at it, but we've seen the development of the game with Pep Guardiola just wanting overloads in midfield. So that sort of slightly precludes that unless you sort of push your fullbacks up or push them in. I mean, 2 up top. I think for a while they've been playing 1 up, 1 off. Arsenal not even playing with 1 up. I mean,
I do hope this means the death of the false 9 because I hate it.
Yeah.
Don't you?
I do, yeah. I mean, because we want centre forwards. Look, I love wingers. I mean, I just think that, Manchester United, I think Ruben Amorim is a fantastic coach, but Manchester United's tradition of the flying winger, we'd go back to Best, obviously, Giggs, more recently Ronaldo when he started out playing wide. I love that. But I can understand that he loves his wing backs. Patrick Dorgu's been good pre-season. Leon, as Crookie was talking about, Ahmad, who's probably a winger, has been playing as a wing back. But yeah, I love that. I think that the essence of football is distilled into a winger taking on a fullback and putting that ball in. Not necessarily to someone huge. It can be a cutback.
But of course, if a winger tries to take on a defender, which is what they used to do a lot and do less of now, that means there's a danger they lose the ball. You need a full-back to back them up. I'm getting a bit tactical here, but you need a full-back to back them up to win the second ball, the one that gets won. But if you look in the Guardiola way of playing, and you admire all this 1,000 passes in a game stuff, the winger is scared to take the full-back on, because if he loses the ball, you're out of possession and you've got to win it back. The winger really shouldn't be worried about losing the ball. They should take on the fullback again and again and again and know that somebody's behind them in case they lose the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And we've seen, a lot, whether it's a Pep thing or sort of a general thing of inverted wingers. So they automatically came inside onto their stronger foot. I love it when you see a winger going on the outside. Absolutely. And getting a cross in, even if it's a cutback, or you want the cross to the far post to the to the big man. Wing play is just.
But this may resurrect it, as I say, if we've got this. So on what you've seen of Gyökeres so far, or Gyökeres generally, Cesco, what do you think? Do you think they're going to bring that more directness to the game, if you like, this season?
Well, I think it gives them both a focal point that they can trust. They clearly didn't trust Rasmus Højlund as the
so they weren't playing the ball into the box.
So they weren't playing the ball into, and I couldn't work out whether he was best with his back to goal or whether he was a run-through striker. And he just seemed sort of just completely bereft of confidence either way that he wanted to play. But I think there is a versatility in these players. I mean, regardless of what happens with Isak Ekitike, he may well play up top today with Wirtz behind him, or he can play on the left. Gyökeres, I agree with you. He is a box. He's between the posts, and that threat there. But doesn't that excite you for this season?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously,
brilliant.
You're obviously nervous because of your centre forward issues.
Oh well, if Liverpool aren't bidding 150 million, then it's fine. So we'd be staying there.
But you look at Chelsea's recruitment, and you just saw João Pedro, what he's done since joining them, and he looks an absolute fantastic. He's exactly what they need. We haven't got Nicholas Jackson in here. Would you take him at Newcastle?
Look, I see some of the arguments that actually can score goals, but it's
for Senegal against England.
Yes, it's a very poor substitute, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Isak. I mean, we're downgrading. This is not a team that's going to be developing to push on to challenge for the title if you lose Isak and you bring in Nicholas Jackson.
Isak developed under Eddie Howe. He's a better player now than when he joined Newcastle. You can't say that about Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea. And I think with Liam Delap and João Pedro, they've got two exceptional centre forwards.
Just quickly, Watkins at Villa, he's been sort of linked with clubs, but not really any bids. Is he a big man in the middle? Is he a wide player? Does he want to stay at Villa? Are Villa going to build a team around him?
He's a very good finisher
to me.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I mean, he deserves, I think, a little bit more respect. Not from Villa fans. I think they are incredibly supportive of him. But I think he's a terrific player. I mean, you could easily have put him in Manchester United's starting line. Obviously, they wanted someone younger in Cesco, but I think he's a terrific finisher. We haven't even mentioned Jamie Vardy.
Where's he gone?
Well, I don't know, but where is he going to go? Where's he going to play? I mean, there's still a good sub there.
There's a good sub in there somewhere. There certainly is. Right, that's it for this week. And next week we'll have a very, very special guest. The West Ham Vice Chair, Karen Brady, will be joining us. Up next, it's the warm-up with Max Rushton and Barry Glendenning.